Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/Pro Revenge. Our first story is about a customer who thinks he's the man who keeps our OP store afloat. And a second story from our subscriber, Ian Campbell Harris. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. My dad chasing a customer to his car. So to start, a little more history about my dad. He raised me on his own. He moved us around the country while he bought failing pet stores and quickly made them profitable to resell and move on to the next one. He was crazy and didn't care what anyone thought. He always said, "The customer is always right" is bullcrap. The truth is, the customer is always the customer, and there are more where they came from. He was legendary in the industry. He was an award-winning dog groomer and handler for show dogs to several celebrities. That brings stories of its own. He seriously gave 0 Fs, but for now, the customer he chased to his car. So a surprisingly large amount of profit from our pet store came from the sale of live feeders. Rodents, $1,000 per week, crickets, $25,000 per week, and goldfish, $50,000 per week. This story involves feeder goldfish used to feed larger fish and small aquatic snakes and other reptiles. It should be noted that when our shipments of these feeder animals arrived, we would typically sell out within a few days and would have to wait until next week's shipment. As an exotic pet store, this was big business. We had this one guy who came in every single week to buy $1 worth of feeder goldfish. We sold them at 10 for $1. This guy was a complete a-hole. Every week he treated our employees like garbage and like his slaves. He complained about everything: how they were collected, how they were bagged, that the way they were poured into the bag would bruise them, drove a very expensive car, and just thought we couldn't possibly survive without him. Finally, one week, Dad had enough. He happened to be the one to help this customer after countless times of seeing his behavior. The guy threw out his usual attitude and complaints and pressed my dad's buttons. As my dad's only child, I can attest to the fact that you don't want to press his buttons. My dad let loose on this a-hole. He says, "Who the F do you think you are? You come in here every week acting like a D for $1 worth of feeders? Well, let me tell you something. I sell those 10 for $1. Those 10 cost me 60 cents. The bag cost me another 10 cents. That's 70 cents, not including the labor to serve your pompous butt every week. How much crap do you expect me and my employee to take for your 30 cents a week? You think you keep me in business? I'll be out of these fish tomorrow. Someone else will buy them, so F off." I don't remember exactly what the guy said back, but it was crappy, and whatever it was, it set my dad off. Guy said he would never shop here again, and it was cut rate and blah blah, I think. My dad starts going off on this guy to the point where he looks afraid. He says F this and leaves. My dad follows him out to his car, telling him off the whole time. By this point, the guy realizes my dad is insane. The rest of us already knew this and were in hysterics. He tries getting in his car. My crazy dad blocks the door of his car until he finished saying what he had to say. Finally, he's done, and he and the guy just look at each other for a minute. The guy says, "I'm really sorry." Dad says, "You should be, a-hole." By this time, we were in tears watching this unfold. The next week, the guy shows up and is the nicest person ever. He continued to buy his feeders from us for several years without incident. And our second story. Don't park there. This was some years ago. I came home from work one evening in a bit of a hurry as my wife and I were due to go out, parked the car in the driveway, and shot inside to get washed and dressed up, as you do. When we came out, some moron had parked his car right across our driveway. Now in the UK, if you have a dropped curb, it's illegal to park across someone's driveway. I went knocking on the doors of the houses, 2 to 3 either side. No one knew whose car it was. So last minute, I grabbed the phone and got a taxi. Fast forward a few weeks, my wife and I had been out to an exhibition the Pro Photo Lab I work for had put on. We returned home around 1 a.m. and found the same car, this time parked in our driveway. So I parked the car across the driveway, went inside, had a cup of tea, and went to bed. It's just gone 3 a.m. in the morning. I kid you not. There's a thunderous banging on my front door. I shoot out of bed and run downstairs wondering what the hell was going on. Upon opening the door, there's a red-faced guy complaining that I'm parked across the driveway. My driveway. And he couldn't get his car out. So I, somewhat less than politely, tell him since he parked across the driveway a few weeks ago, and illegally at that, he could do what we had to do that night, get a bloody taxi. Grumble, grumble, moan, moan, all about how he lived on the South Coast, about 70 miles or so away, and that would cost a fortune, and he wasn't going to do that. Tough, so walk it instead. He threatened to call the police, so I told him to go ahead. Now keep in mind, mobile phones had hardly been heard of in those days. He froze. Then he demanded to use my house phone. Nope, 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 not happening. There's a public phone box down by the pub, use that. That's a good 10 minutes walk away. Then I'm off back to bed. I just dozed off when the doorbell goes. Sigh. I get up again, and when I open the door, there's the same guy and 2 policemen. He'd actually called the cops. So I explain the situation, and they nod understandingly, then ask if I'd mind moving my car so this gentleman can get his car out. Nope, sorry, I can't. Guy screams, why not? I looked at the cops. Since he came around the first time, I've had a drink or 2. I was a bit stressed out, you see. Cop has a little smile on his face. He can't smell booze on me. Well, would you allow him to move your car for you? What? No, he's not insured to drive it. He got told to find his own way home and come back to collect his car. You might think that was the end of it. Not finished yet. After that, I put signs on posts either side of the front of the driveway and either side of the driveway itself, and one right at the back. Assuming they drove in and didn't reverse in, it'd be impossible to miss it, stating that this was a private driveway and that anybody parking there would need to pay a £50 fee for it to be released. And that was per day or part thereof that it was there. That was a lot of money in those days. Fast forward about 6 weeks or so, we come home from work, and guess who's parked on my driveway? Again. Yup, same moron. So I do the same as last time and park across the driveway. Same thing again. Around 2:30 or 3 a.m., he's banging on my door. I go down, open the door, and in a voice colder than the Arctic say, yes? You need to move your car so I can get mine out. I lean forward and down a bit. I'm 6'3" tall and pretty well built. I take a slow breath and say, see those signs there? When you pay the parking penalty, I'll move my car. Not until. You can't do that. That's extortion. It's 100% legal. I checked, so tough luck. So pay up or bugger off. He called the police again, and the same 2 cops turn out again. We go through the same procedure all over again, and he gets told it's perfectly legal, and the gentleman, me, was perfectly entitled to do it. So he had to get a taxi back home to the South Coast, then got a friend to drive him back the next day. I'm off that day, so handy that, he turns up and held out £50. Where's the other £50? What? Go read the sign again. His friend loaned him the other £50. I moved my car, and he drove away, flipping me off as he did so. That night, I took my wife out for a slap-up meal. I was chatting to the owner of the restaurant and some of the other customers that I know, and guess who walks in? One of the 2 cops with his wife. He saw me and came over and asked how it had all played out in the end, so I sat and went through the whole story with a restaurant full of people. Small place, maybe 15 tables, hanging onto every word and screaming with laughter. When it came time to pay for the meal, the boss of the restaurant flatly refused to take a penny, saying it was the best laugh he'd had in years. And our last story. Guy takes advantage of a kind special needs person and becomes homeless. EW equals entitled worker, AG equals awesome guy, D equals my dad. This is not my story, but my dad's. So my dad is the manager of security at a big electric company. He often hires and fires people, but he hates firing people because my dad used to be a cop and hates seeing people homeless. This comes into play. So about a month ago, my dad hired a worker with mild special needs. Awesome guy, but was one of the best people he'd ever hired. D said he never failed to complete a task successfully, hasn't missed a day of work, and shows up every day on time with a smile. D loves him. But D also had another employee, entitled worker. EW seems to think that his job is meant for his coworkers and for him to play games and watch baseball on his computer at work. So AG's main job is to check people in and out of the complex's front gate, check IDs, inspect unknown people's vehicles, etc. But EW is right after him on their rotation, so as AG is leaving, EW is stepping in. One night, as AG is leaving, EW says to AG, "Hey, I have a family emergency and need to go. Could you cover?" AG enthusiastically, "Of course." AG loved helping people and didn't mind staying later as he didn't have any plans. Nothing's wrong, right? Nope. EW every day would have a new excuse on why he couldn't stay late, and every day AG would be happy to help. Well, one day when D and AG were eating lunch together, these two grown men exclude him like 5-year-olds, but D likes to be his buddy, which is hard because my dad, although kind-hearted, doesn't like speaking too much. AG told him how he had to help EW all week and was proud of his help, but concerned for EW and how many family emergencies he had. D was taken aback by this. D saw EW at the bar 2 times this week, and other days saw his Facebook posts about him at his girlfriend's house. D, oh boy, was steaming. D's a giant guy, 6'6", 250 pounds, ex-cop with some toned muscles. He scares the crap out of me even when I drop food by accident. But he's a funny guy. So you can see how EW's career in D's field went. Not only did he get fired for taking advantage of coworkers and leaving on company hours, but when searching his desk for stolen property, D saw a baseball and other stuff notification on his computer, and that pushed him to fire him. Apparently, this was the job keeping his head above water in rent and was now homeless because of him getting fired. D heard about this and is still very upset. He's out on the streets, but I like to think he's suffering and starving. AG often comes over for dinner, and he loves my birds. AG got a raise and a promotion. He's an awesome guy. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.